Hello, Future Bestsellers. So we just experienced the strangest thing on StreamYard, which is what we use to broadcast the live stream across all of our various channels. And that was when we hit the go button this morning. It said basically that traffic was unexpectedly high and try again in 30 to 60 seconds, which none of us had ever experienced before. But we did it, and here we are. So apparently it worked. So yay!
We have
Um,
failed.
exactly. We have prevailed. So, yeah, so I'm excited to be here. I feel like I'm really far behind. You guys know we've had a baby visiting, and little baby Sterling, aka Stir Fry, departed yesterday for his grandma's house. And it's so quiet here. And every time anybody's still, I feel like I like I have to be quiet because the baby
Yeah.
must be asleep. And it's like but there's still like toys littered all over my house. So it's a fun little period of adjustment. So yay. Let's quickly do our intros. We'll say hi to I see some friends already in the chat. Hi everybody. We're super happy to see you. Let's go ahead and do our intros, and then we'll get rolling with our first warm-up sprint. I'm going to start with you today, Michelle. Tell us a little about you and your awesome channel.
All right, I'm Michelle Schusterman. My channel is Writing Workshops, Traditional Publishing Chat, and Writing Blogs, and I write middle grade and young adult novels.
Yay. Thank you so much for being here. As always, Robert Jones, story detective. Tell us a little about you and your awesome channel. We are glad to have you here as always.
And I'm glad to be here. My channel is The Story Detective, where I take various forms of storytelling and put them under a Sherlockian microscope and break down the craft for the viewer. And as I've been saying, new videos are in the works. They're in the planning stage. They will be filming at some point in the not too distant, but there's a backlog of stuff which is always relevant. Videos usually don't catch up with themselves after a while, but craft principles really don't change a whole lot.
I get that. We're very happy that you're here as always. I'm Lisa Daly. I'm a traditionally published and indie published author, which makes me a hybrid. And on my channel, we talk about how to write a book you're super proud of and get it published. And I write contemporary romance, primarily rom-com, and nonfiction writing advice. So, and my earlier books were dating advice. I'm trying to like switch so I don't have to say 19 kinds of books. Anyway, hi, I write books. So glad to be here. Let's say hi to some of our friends in the chat. Devin was first on the scene today. Thank you so much for being here today. We're very happy to see you this morning. Good morning, Mary Putnam, who has a book that's about to come out. Pretty exciting. Daisy's here. Hello, Daisy. Super glad to see you today. Let's see. Oh, please tell us how to pronounce your name so that I'm not saying it wrong the whole time. Is it Fadina? That's my first guess, but please spell it phonetically for us in the chat so that we can address you properly. OMG, your writing sprint, awesome! Yay, we're very excited about that. Mary says they had another strange hiccup with the internet, wondering if there's solar flares. Mary would know for sure. Hello,
My internet has been down so much over the past couple of weeks because of the heat. It's like out for hours. I've been like 50% internet for about 12 days now.
Really?
Yes.
Is it so? One of the things that happens in the summer, obviously in Florida, is we get a lot of hurricanes. And often what happens is that the power companies will preemptively shut off your power. So even if you just get like a little, you might be out of power for a day or a couple days. And you feel so isolated. Like, I mean, in Florida, it's bad because you have the heat too, which is really oppressive. But you feel so isolated without like the internet or your phone. Are you feeling like that, Robert? Like a little,
it
like
really stops things.
disconnected?
If you go to research anything or look anything up, I mean, you're kind of like stuck where you left off, and it's like, okay, now I have to turn to real books or find a different source or just put that off for a day until the internet comes back on.
Yeah. I know it makes things challenging. I mean, in some ways it's good because then that's like some like great distraction-free writing, which a lot of people will, purposely seek out apps or go places where they can't, where they won't have internet access. So you have that going for you at least, that you can get in some nice quiet writing hours. But yeah, I know it's hard. We're so dependent on it now. It really makes it like feel strange when we don't have it. Susan's here this morning. This is funny. I was just about to say, hey, back to 88 Green, whose comment was slightly above Susan's, and StreamYard jumped. And so I got Susan, but we're also happy to say hi to her. Good morning. Super glad to see you today. Avi's here. Hello. Happy hump day back to you. Nerdy book nerd. Love that. We are super glad to see you. Winter says good morning from Southern California. Love, love, love. Ooh, good. Badina is so glad to hear about that. Very nice. Robert, Mary's got a question. Do you have fiber to your home or cable?
It comes through cable and a modem, and I've called my provider a couple of times, and the first time I got a complete runaround, they said it was the equipment. The second time they told me it was because of the heat, but they keep sending me emails, even though they're saying it's the equipment that says your internet is down. The time to come back on is 1 a.m, then 2 a.m, then 4 a.m. So they know it's out. So I don't know what they're doing.
That doesn't sound like your equipment.
No.
It's your equipment. How do they know it's going to come back on at 3 a.m.?
Yeah, and the phone goes out the same time as the internet, and the phone is cellular, so there's a bigger problem at large. I just don't know. They're not telling me what it is.
No, the Horror Geeks parents have a similar issue, like where they didn't bury the cables properly or something, and so they have just constantly had internet problems, and they all blame it on the previous installer, or it's the equipment, or it's this, or it's blah blah blah, or you did something wrong, or unplug it and plug it back in again. But the truth is, in the last decade, their internet consistently sucks because they didn't bury the cables.
Yeah, all the stuff with making these upgrades, I think it's a lot of BS. Where I used to live, we had underground cables, and they finally admitted that they were old, and every time it rained, the internet would go out. Wow. So much for infrastructure and all the millions.
Right. Mary says, is it Spectrum? They're evil.
Yes, it is Spectrum.
We also have Spectrum. The thing and like how many times does and we pay for like the corporate internet, right? Because we both need a lot of internet. And because he's a video creator, I'm a creator, we do all these various live streams, and so we need a lot of bandwidth and speed. And so we pay for like the best internet that we can possibly get from Spectrum. And how many times have I frozen on this live stream?
Well, Spectrum used to be Time Warner Cable, and Time Warner had worked for a subsidiary of them. I know that they've been evil for a long time.
I will say that before we previously had, I don't remember who it was. We previously had somebody, and then they got bought out by Frontier, and they were worse. Frontier was Spectrum was they still suck, but they're an improvement over Frontier, which was like really, really terrible. Yeah.
I think Frontier was what I had in the last town. I think that was like 10 or 12 years ago with the underground wires that would go out every time it rained. That was Frontier.
They suck. That was like the worst. And the customer service, like it would just take, and I don't remember who we had before, but we went from having a really great service provider to like a really terrible one, and like great speeds and all that. Then Frontier took over and it was all just crap. So Avi has to do client work to keep the boss happy. Wish I could be writing though. We'll be brainstorming now so the words flow later. Yes. Mary says, don't even get me started. Anyway. So let's go ahead and get started with our first 5-minute warm-up sprint. Let me get that up on the screen. Let us know in the chat, you guys, what you are going to be working on today, and we will talk about it when we get back. But for now, let's get those documents open, get our big vat of caffeine. Oh, I just realized I need a refill, and get everything we need to have super, super effective sprints when we move to our 20-minute sprints right after this. All right, everybody, 5-minute sprint coming up. Starting in 3, Let's do it. right. How did everybody do on that last sprint?
Good.
Good.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. So where's like a continuation of the talk of terrible internet. So what is everybody working on today? What are you going to be working on today, Robert?
I'm working on my craft book today and starting a new chapter, which I just wrote a whole 88 words on.
Ooh, very nice. Good to hear that. How about you, Michelle? What are you working on?
I'm a ghostwriting project.
Very nice. I will be editing a ghost project today, which I'm trying to get done by a week from Friday, which is going to be a pretty tight deadline, but I feel like I can probably make it if I really dig down and, dun, 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 like that. Okay. So what are you guys looking for? Looking for. What are you guys working on today? Mary says, have you seen the SNL skit about canceling cable? So funny. Not sure how they get away with using Spectrum logos. Maybe because it's parody. That's probably exactly why. Good morning, Regina. Which brings me to some legal questions regarding using famous people's names. Bad idea. So it's not illegal to use famous people's names in your book, even in fictional situations. There was a book about, I think it was called like Marrying Patrick Dempsey or Marrying Somebody. Anyway, it's about this woman who is like in love, like, lusts over this movie star, and her best friend, a guy, goes with her on a cross-country trip to go meet, I cannot remember. I read the book a couple years ago and I cannot remember the name of it. I think it was Patrick Dempsey, but it might have been somebody else. Anyway, basically the two of them go on a cross-country trip. She to meet and marry this guy, this movie star, and who is a real movie star, and him to theoretically support her and be there to catch her when she falls because he's really in love with her, and that is okay. I actually, in the originally published version of 15 Minutes of Shame, which was a Putnam book, had a scene where my main character basically finds out that her husband is cheating on her on the Today Show, and Matt Lauer is interviewing her, and she like throws up on national television, becomes this big laughing stock because she's like this big dating expert. And I use Matt Lauer, who was, the main Today Show host at the time the book was written. Now, when I got my rights back and re-released the book, I absolutely changed it from Matt Lauer because some stuff had happened. And that is maybe something that you want to be thinking about when you are considering using a celebrity. I mean, there are some rules, like you definitely don't want to disparage them or anything like that, but it's okay if they sort of exist doing the normal thing that they normally do. I did have, when I wrote 15 Minutes of Shame, there is another character in the book who is a Sarasota gossip columnist named Marjorie North. And I could have used a fictional person, but at the time, Marjorie North was sort of a Sarasota institution. She'd been the gossip columnist in the main newspaper for like 40 years. And so I wanted to use her, but I didn't feel like she was like famous enough to sort of fall under that, rule. And so I asked her permission, and she was actually really excited about it. So anyway, so that's the question. Anybody else? Let's see. Oh, that's it. Marrying Keanu Reeves. That's the book. Right. Keanu Reeves would be a much better husband target, I think, than Patrick Dempsey. I don't know. This is like a human, I think. But yeah. That's exactly it. All right. Fadina is fixing the opening of my contemporary romance. Very, very nice. Great job. Oh, 88 green. We feel for you. Doing a tense change from past to present. We've all done it. It always and you will, even years after the book's publication, find the one tense issue that you missed 18 times. It's the worst. It's the worst. The only thing worse, I think, is changing POV or changing POV and tense at the same time.
Yeah.
Nightmare. That's awful. But it's often worth it. Usually when you feel like you need to change the tense, it's because your pacing doesn't quite feel right, or like there's something that's off. So I will say, as much as I hate changing tense, it's like almost always worth it. I don't think I've ever done it where I was like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. I hate the process, but I'm always glad afterwards that I did it.
Yeah,
Very
I would
Keanu
also
Reeves.
suggest to take maybe a few chapters and try it in a separate document. That way you'll know whether it's working and whether you've changed things that you have to change back again.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
I've done that too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You do want to separate, like you do want, I do, anytime I make a major change, I will start with a new doc. And this is true for like clients too. I'll name files, ghost past 1, ghost past 2. So because a lot of times your contract includes a specific number of revisions, but also for your own work, it's really helpful if you're not just changing your original document and you need to go back to get, like, you go, oh no, I should never have changed or taken out that scene about blah blah blah, then you have that previous version there. This is one of the things I used to love. Now I just save separate versions, but this is one of the things I used to love about MacBooks had this thing called Time Machine, and you could go back a week or 2 weeks in a document and see that. And I'm sure there are other iterations of that, but they made it so easy. So okay, Avi's got a question. Been working on my YA fantasy for 10 years. Is that too long? How would I know if I should shelve it? I do work on other projects and occasionally work on the YA work in progress. I do love it though. Why do you feel like it's not ready yet after 10 years?
Yeah, that's my question. I don't think there's any too long. If you still love
Right.
it, then you still love it. So keep
Right.
working on it.
Right.
But is it like what part do you feel like you're stuck in a certain part of the process? Like, are you stuck in brainstorming and world building and drafting and like maybe work on figuring out why?
Yeah.
So that you can get past it and actually get to the finish line.
Yeah. I think too, it might be helpful to send out the draft as it is to, 5 to 10 fantasy beta readers so that you can and see if there are some common themes that you're like, if you're not sure what the problem is. If it was your first book, it could just be that like jitters. A lot of times you just like feel like you keep needing to make it more and more perfect and that it never really ever feels done. And a lot of times that's just sort of a first book syndrome. And the cure for that is putting it out. So what you've been with us for a long time, Avi, tell us what it is. Like, why does it not feel done yet? Why does it not feel ready to go out into the world yet?
Yeah, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute because I've read a lot of things in the trade magazines about how long it takes people to write. The average person is like a year to 2 years. And then we have a second tier that's 3 to 5 years, but there is a third tier that takes 10 years or more to get that first one done. And it varies from person to person.
Yeah.
But I know, like Larry Brooks said, he wrote like 15 years before he published the first one.
Yeah. And that, especially if it's a series, if you plan for a series, a lot of times you feel like you have to get like, because you're not just planning the first book, you're planning a whole series of books, and it feels, it can feel overwhelming. So I get that. And there are plenty, especially of, fantasy authors who are famous. George R.R. Martin is a good one. Like, he's really well known for taking a super long time. And that's just how some people write. I mean, that's the thing. Not everybody can, do rapid release, and that's okay. That's definitely okay.
Yeah. And I got stuck in the whole rapid release thing for a while with self-publishing. And, as some of you know, I've had a gap in my life. And during that time, I've stockpiled several novels. I've worked on a bunch of them. And I've only come to the point over the past year, I think, where I said, okay, I'm ready to start putting stuff out. And then it's like picking one to work on. But I realized that sometimes that one doesn't always work for me because I'm stuck on certain things between that and my craft book. So what I started doing lately is this 30-day plan to work on various projects and learn how to multitask, which I've never been good at. And once I started getting good at it, hopping back between project to project has really helped me to focus on one. And I've realized you get to that point where sometimes you've said what you want to say in a day and your well kind of runs dry. And when I force it, I won't get as much done. But if I hop over to another project, I'll make more progress on that one. And it
Right.
helps me refill that well when I come back to it the next day. So I
Yeah.
would say experiment a little bit. If it's your process, try different things until the process starts to click, because I've been there, and sometimes it can take a bit.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. We have so many good comments I want to get into. Daisy makes an excellent point. Famous names can date stories. I read some YA that compared a boy's looks to Justin Bieber, which really made me roll my eyes. Yeah, that's the thing too. Celebrities are not always well known for being well behaved. And so you know, aside from dating your work, like Matt Lauer did for me, right? So now he's not been the Today Show host for quite a long time. But besides dating your work, you can also, you know, sometimes celebrities behave in a way that's not okay. Not okay. Mabel says, "Me too. YA fantasy for 10 years. I'm gloriously alone for writing today. Yay! Well, we better get you some. We better get writing, huh?" Regina says, "The YA dystopian I'm currently revising was first written 21 years ago. If you love this story, your heart will make it work." Love that. Oh, Mary's got a good tip here. I've used the version history in Google Docs to go back in time too. I don't think I knew about that. I'm gonna have to try and do it. I usually just save so I remember like past tense version, such and such version, you know, so I can find stuff. Avi says, plot is my weakest area, so I've struggled with that. Also, the magic system took a while to develop. I sent out to beta, so I guess I'm scared to resend and or publish. You can always do a second round with betas, and maybe since it's been a while, send to a different group of betas.
Yes. And I would also say there are people that just dive in and start publishing books right away before they've even read enough books to understand how the novel works. I would say if you've been working on it for 10 years, being an intelligent person, your book is probably much better than the average and better than you think. So don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, I bet that. Right. We know you. And my guess is it's probably better than you think. Ree at uni says, is it Ree like Rihanna? I hope. Tell me if I'm wrong, if I should be pronouncing it Rye or some other way, please. I've been working on my YA fantasy work in progress for 2 to 3 years, but I'm not done yet. 3 years ago was kind of a false start. It started back in 2022 again properly. All right, good job. Very nice. All right, guys, let's go ahead and do a 20-minute sprint. Let me get the timer up here on the screen for us. All right, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sorry, I like grew up in California and Denver, and I say guys all the time, and I did not used to ever be aware of it, and now I'm always like, so when I say guys, I mean everybody. But if it annoys the crap out of anybody, let me know, and I will try to curb it. It's a lifelong habit, so it may be a challenge. Anyway, you guys, let's go ahead and start with our first 20-minute sprint of the day. We're gonna get started in 3, 2, 1. Sprint. Sorry, you guys. I was lost for a second. I could not get back to the right screen. Oh my gosh. All right, hold on. Let's get this ticker off. There we go. Very nice. How did everybody? I was like really in it. So when
Yeah.
when the music ended, I was like couldn't find the right window. I was totally, you know how it is. All right, guys. How did you all do? Let us know in the chat. Ree, thank you very much for clarifying. I really appreciate that. 88 Green says, Avi, hope the second round of beta readers will go better than you think. Sometimes self-criticism can be the worst. Yes, that's true. And you can think your story needs more work than it actually does. That is so true. That is so true.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, you're so welcome. Haley. Hi, Haley. Just joined working on a sci-fi mystery called The Anomaly of Theta. That's a fun title. I'm reading through chapter 1 right now before I write chapter 2. Look at you. Good job. Very glad to see you. Very nice. Susan's working on writing a review. Posted a Goodreads, started a website post. Very nice. 88 Green got a couple pages of tense changes done. Thankless work, but you'll be glad at the end. So nice. Very good. All right. How did you guys do? Robert, how'd you do on the last one?
371 words on that one.
Hey,
Look at you, fancy man. Fancy fingers, not fancy man, fancy fingers. Michelle, or maybe fancy man. I don't know. You always seem like casual man to me, but fancy fingers for sure. Michelle, how'd you do on that last one?
good. I'm not sure the word count. I had to go back and reread a little and edit a little, but yeah, getting there.
That's where I was. No idea what my word count was, and I'm editing, so it's not really a thing. But I did make a lot of progress, and I was like really deep into this. So there was something I wanted to talk about with you guys today, and I'm not sure if you've seen what's happening. I know a lot of you write fantasy. There are a number of people who write romance and dark romance has been like where you have sort of a bully as a hero, or he's a mafia guy, or just sort of a bad guy. Has been really popular as of late. And my daughter was telling me that there is I would say gentleman, but he's really not. There's a gentleman on TikTok that has caught the eye of book talkers. And he specifically dark romance book talkers. And he murdered his girlfriend. He murdered another woman that he cheated on his girlfriend with, and tried to murder another woman. He's on trial, or he's been convicted. I believe he's in his sentencing phase, and apparently he's quite handsome. And all of these book talkers are making these videos idolizing this guy as sort of like this I know that's the face I made yesterday.
Okay.
Idolizing this guy as like real life dark romance hero. And if a guy strangles you, he is not a romantic lead, he is an abuser. And that is not, and so what I wanted to talk about specific, like that specific incident was like horrifying to me, but it also made me think about sort of how people, connect with books so deeply, and what responsibility we have as authors to to sort of highlight or idolize maybe people who are not necessarily good. And the thing is, the things that you like to read about, like maybe you like to read about BDSM, but this is not something you would ever do in your real life. Or maybe you like to read about vigilante killers who go through and just murder the bad guys on the streets of LA. And that's like really satisfying to you. But of course, you would never do that in your real life. Right. So there's always that line, because just because you like something in books does not mean that you would actually like it in real life. But
Right.
sometimes what we read in books can normalize what we feel like is acceptable in real life. And
Yeah.
to me, this sort of TikTok swerve, where we have these young women idolizing a guy who is, by all accounts, a horrible, violent human being who targets women, is really scary. I'm sorry, I'm having this serious conversation and I just saw this at the corner of my eye. Yeah. This paired with book talk does not sound good, right? Because what happens is they're all all the book talk, not all of them, but many book talkers are making these like thirst trap videos of this felon, this man who strangled his girlfriend and killed her, and who cheated on her with another woman and killed her, ran her over with a car or something. And like, I'm horrified by the whole thing. And I appreciate that, like, when authors write about this stuff, it's meant to be fantasy. And, certainly as a dating expert of many, many years, I can tell you for a fact that some ladies do go for the bad boys, and this is not new information. But there's the change, I think, has been like in traditional romance, he's bad, he's a killer, he's a mafia guy, he's whatever, and he's evil to everyone but her.
Mhm.
But now we have this crossover where we've got this sort of abuse. And so, yeah. So thoughts, anyone? Avi says, that story gives me the ick. Hard to believe that cheating and not killing you is a relationship goal. Right? Yeah, not a big fan of that.
I'm sorry, but also killing other people? Like, we're okay with that just because he doesn't want to kill us?
I'm just saying, like, for a fantasy, like, he's dark and scary, but he'd go to the end of the earth to protect you. This is a classic sort of trope. This is like the vampire, like when Twilight was such a big thing, right? He has to deny his most basic need, which is human blood, because he loves her so much. Like that sort of ultimate, he's a terrible guy, he's a mafia guy, but he, treats her like a princess, and he would do anything to save or protect her. Like, I know it's the extreme of that genre. But what happens when we're sort of applying that fantasy, which is safe in a book but not safe in real life, it becomes sort of a scary thing. Ooh, this is such a good point, Susan. I recently read Love Letters to a Serial Killer. The book explores the phenomena, the attraction to the bad guy, and what happens if you catch his eye. Right? You know how many serial killers, and this guy is probably, let's just say, we watch Love After Lockup on Friday nights. The Horror Geek and I do. It's our trashy TV, dirty little secret. And I can totally see this guy getting a lot of ladies, sending him money and whatever. And I think, and the reason is like, I'm not going to send any links or highlight any of this because I don't want to give it any more juice than it already has. Right? He's willing to kill for me. When did that become a thing? It's become a thing.
I'm going to make a suggestion here, and it's one that I've made in my craft book, and I don't see people making this suggestion to writers. Get a book on psychology. There's psychology textbooks in used bookstores, and read up on this personality type. It's antisocial. Clinically, there is no cure, and they only go after people that they can make a dependent. Even if they're lavishing you with gifts, there's a price to be paid, and you are going to be their slave.
There is some real truth to that. So Winter brings up a really interesting point. Also, I think as long as authors don't model their male lead after the real guy, they're in the moral clear. I think there's another sort of phenomenon is that when authors, and there was a problem with this, a big problem in hockey romance specifically, and in other sports romance as well, that often you use a real life player as an inspiration. And then what happens is you have a lot of readers who fall in love with that book version, but reach out to the actual player that he's based on or she's based on in real life, which can cause some problems for the person because they're like, I am not the person in the book. I'm a married man with 3 children. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's a challenging thing. The expression on your face, Michelle.
I had to Google him. Sorry.
It's okay.
I know who you're talking about. The specific one that Book Talk is freaking out about.
Yeah.
He's got like tattoos all over his face and just the most every single picture. I have not been able to find a still from his court proceedings yet where he isn't smirking in the most arrogant way. And I'm like, we still find this attractive, really? Because these are people I just want to punch in the face. Sorry,
Right. And he
not
had,
saying.
I think
Yeah.
what, and again, I had not like, I was outraged by the thing, and I did not want to give it any more juice, but apparently he has a swastika on his
Yes,
face, which,
that's some racist tattoos.
yeah, which is like, this is the worst guy you could pick. Like, he's racist, he's violent, he is a misogynist, and he's a felon. This is not
Well,
the best you can do, ladies
well,
or
let's face it.
gentlemen. Yeah.
The supervillain these days has become the anti-hero, and they seem to be more admired than the actual heroes. It's we are living in a weird society.
We are living in a weird. I think that's a great point to go to our next sprint on. We are definitely living in a weird society. But I do want to think about, like, as an author, how much do we bear any responsibility for this? Do we have, you know, do we or not? Is it our responsibility to, you know, sort of add in some, I don't know, safety guidelines for the reader? Like, do you need do you need like a disclaimer at the end that says, you know, don't do this in real life, like the McDonald's has on their coffee, like coffee is hot. Do we need to say, don't date someone who murders other ladies or
Wait,
humans in general, because
have
that
to
tends
say
to
that.
turn out poorly?
It should be okay to write about whatever because it's fiction. And
Right.
fiction is a place where we can explore dark things freely and safely.
And safely. That's the thing.
As an author, though, knowing that particularly young, like girls and
Yeah.
teen girls especially, are going to be reading what I write, I don't know. I feel I'm having like a little bit of a knee jerk reaction at the idea of like mandating that someone do, like, I don't even want to say censor, but like adjust their work or add something to their work, because I really don't think you should have to. But
Right.
as a human being with morals, I feel like I would want to if I knew my target audience were vulnerable young women.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where I fall in this.
I know.
Well,
It's go ahead.
the sad thing is we have to put ratings for a character who has anxiety because it might traumatize somebody, but yet this stuff can get out to the world and be picked up and like, ooh, this is great.
Yeah.
Right.
it's just crazy.
It's true. Well, and there's some very, like, I worry, and that's the thing, like, we're all human. I know that the majority of my readers are women, and I'm conscious of, you know, what kind of messages am I sending? And I'm positive that I have screwed it up in the past, and that I will continue to screw it up, as every one of us humans are prone to do. But it is really scary. And I think, like, when you're writing about abusive relationships being loving relationships, that you have to be really cautious, because you're literally, you know, if someone buys into that concept, then you could be setting them up for a lifetime of pain and anguish and death. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not a lifetime of death, but you know what I'm saying. So I mean, I guess we all have that in the end, but maybe a premature death. So
Yeah.
Avi says it's like dating or marrying a cannibal. At some point, you end up on the list, aka the menu. Yeah,
Exactly. I'll do anything for you. Just don't cross me, or you'll be on my hit list.
or you'll be on my hit list, right? And that's the thing. I used to, so when I was a TV dating expert, for those of you who are new, if you didn't know that was my past, when I was a TV dating expert, one of the things that I would always say was that when a guy tells you how every person they dated in the past was awful or crazy or whatever, that you should pay attention to the fact that the common denominator in all of his relationships with his crazy exes is him or her, and that you are going to be next. You will be the one he will be describing, or she will be describing to their next partner, as a crazy lunatic, whether or not that's true, and whether or not they are the person who in fact made you feel like you're a lunatic. So,
Well,
all right,
people that
guys.
can't get along with anybody usually can't see that they're a large part of the problem.
Or the entire problem.
Or the entire problem. Yes.
Right. That's true. That's absolutely the truth. All right, guys, let's go ahead and do our next 20 minutes for a fascinating topic. How much responsibility we bear for this, and what should we do? So if you guys have any more thoughts on this, please drop them in the comments and we'll talk about it when we come back. But let's go ahead and do our second 20-minute sprint. We got to get some writing done today. All right, everybody, here we go. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's cha-cha. back. Let's see. All right. How'd everybody do on that last one?
Very good.
Yay. All right. Fantastic. How about you, Robert? How'd you do?
Still getting a word count here.
That's good.
344 words.
Nice. All right. Fantastic. Very good. So let's go back to our I'm in the same boat as before. I'm editing today, so word count is meaningless, sort of. Winter says, I feel or hope that most dark romance readers are normal about these things and that are aware that fiction is fiction. I think most are. I think it's just yeah. I think most people are. I think most people do realize like this is fantasy and that I wouldn't really want this in my real life. So
Yeah.
and I remember when like there were always these stories about how all these serial killers had like The Catcher in the Rye in their back pocket or their backpack. It was like a thing when I was a kid when we read The Catcher in the Rye. They're like, oh, all these serial killers read. But the truth is it was just a very popular book at the time. And it's like any other popular book, that's like saying like, oh, all the girls who score really well on AP exams have read Colleen Hoover books. That does not necessarily mean that Colleen Hoover books make you score higher on the AP exams. It just means they're very popular and a lot of people own Colleen Hoover books. Okay, so let's see. Good question from Fadina. Anyone else struggling with starting multiple different projects and struggling with finishing them? I gave my ADHD full reign these days, and now I have 3 projects that I'm working on. Oops. So I'm going to let, I was going to say, I'm going to let Michelle field this one because I think more than, like, Robert tends to work on 2 at a time. I really am like a one. I try not to skip projects too much because I really need to stay focused. I mean, I do a little, but not as much as you guys. So Michelle.
All right. So I work on multiple projects, sometimes out of necessity, like some are things for clients or my job, and some are things for myself. But I also do have a few of my own personal, no obligations, no contract projects that I'm working on at the same time. And I think the simplest advice I can give you is this: it's fine to have multiple projects, but give yourself multiple deadlines. Like, and I don't just mean like I want to finish this project by this date, but like set smaller ones. Like I want to have this outlined by X date, or I want to be finished with the brainstorming phase by the X date. Mm-hmm. Give each one a next deadline and work towards that as well. And that'll help you from just getting lost in like, oh, I'm going to play with this one until I get stuck. And then I'm going to go play with this one until I get stuck. And then I'm going to go play with this one until I get stuck. You actually want to be making progress with all of them. And you can.
I keep a core project and I try to make that the main thing. Mm-hmm. Then there's another deadline if I have like an editing project that's for someone. Mm-hmm. And then I have my art, which doesn't really have a deadline. It's just a break mentally and, to work on something in between. And then there's like looking at what comes next in my project and maybe doing a read through on the next one and making some notes. So there's things that have specifics and then there's things that are just worked in between and they don't have an everyday plan. They just have a fit in here and there.
Yep. Great. Yep. That's really great. I'm sort of mixed between the two of you. I tend to block off days to work on like my primary project, where I like really, because I really do need like I'm not a good code switcher. So I really need like big chunks of time to make progress on projects. But I also do what Michelle had suggested, which is to set multiple deadlines. If I've got like a couple client projects that I'm working on and my own book project, I'm constantly trying to make progress on all of those projects, not just sort of flitting around to which one. Because with often with my own book projects, I have deadlines, but you always have deadlines with client projects. So, and it sucks to be behind. It really sucks to be behind. 88 Green says, so I hope that helps. If anybody wants to weigh in the chat, please feel free to just jump right in there. 88 Green says, didn't get as much done today as I wanted, but I'll go to sleep now anyway. Thanks for the sprints. Hope everyone's having a good day, afternoon, night. Bye, 88 Green. See you next time. Very, very nice. All right, you guys. Well, it's 12:30. I feel like we should do another sprint. Anybody else itching to write? All right. Fidea says, glad to know I'm not the only one. You're welcome. Thank you very much. That's a good question. Avi says, deadlines are a great tip. I have tentative deadlines for my Substack submissions. Submit on a Monday. Michelle publishes her critiques on Friday. Work on edits over the weekend. Back to submitting. Nice.
There you go.
Very good. Yeah, deadlines are, well, you know, writers live and die by them. And yeah, there we go. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with another sprint. I know you guys are all anxious to write today. We had kind of a heavy topic earlier, so I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to write today. All right. Oh, this is weird. I don't know why YouTube looks like this. Let's see if it works. Here we go, everybody. Let's get started with our writing sprints starting in 3, 2, 1. Last round. Make it count. All right. We are back. Let me get rid of this banner. How'd everybody do on that last sprint?
Finished a chapter.
Yay. Fantastic.
55 words that time.
Ooh, good for you. No idea. I didn't check it all, but I did make good progress. And I looked up and I was like, oh, it's got to be 20 minutes soon. And when I looked up, it was like 40 seconds left. So I'm feeling really good about that. Avi says, I already did that one. Haley's World. Hello, Haley. Going to eat since this is the final sprint. And then thank you for the wonderful sprints. Haley, thank you so much for being here. We so appreciate that. Mary is off too. She's got a day job. Thank you so much, Mary, for being here today. Susan sprint the sprint, wishing Canva was more intuitive. I feel you on that one. I have to say, I do love Canva, but I have not really fully dived into dive in divin. I have not fully yet dived though. Yeah, I haven't. I'm not as familiar with the update of Canva where they're trying to make it like a whole business suite. I have really not do that. Vixen, that was a disaster of a sentence that I just blah, blah, blah. Vixen says, listening to Siri Guy read my book back to me while I did stuff around the house. That's always good. Good way to get hear some weird stuff. And I think that just reading a book out loud is a really good way to edit. Vixen is doing some final edits on the story. Very nice. Very, very nice. So glad you guys are getting so much out of this. So we're almost done here. I think unless anybody has any other questions we need to address, and we're so close to the end, that we should go ahead and do our little outros. I did not check this morning. I had crazy we had crazy baby day yesterday, and so it's so quiet around the house now because he's gone. And so I keep like tiptoeing around, like if he's not, like he's up down for a nap or something, but that's not real. Anyway, so I did not pull any questions off social media. So if you guys have anything really quick before we go, drop it in the chat. We'll try to answer it. In the meantime, let's go ahead and do our outros. I'm going to start with Robert this time. Please tell us a little about you and your awesome channel before we go.
My channel is The Story Detective, where I take various forms of storytelling and put it under a microscope, the Sherlockian microscope, rather. I'm almost forgetting. Got to wear those fancy Sherlock pants.
You can't forget the Sherlockian microscope.
And break down the craft for the viewer. I got 1,158 words done today, so I'm only 850 words away from my word count for the day, so that's great.
Good for you. Very, very nice. Michelle, tell us a little about you and your awesome channel before we go.
All right, I'm Michelle Schusterman. I write middle grade and young adult novels. My channel is traditional publishing chat, writing blogs, and writing workshops.
Very nice. Avi's got a question. Where in the world is Michelle Schusterman today?
I'm in a town called Anacortes. Anacortes. There's not a Z at the end. It's an S, and I keep saying it wrong. It's in Washington.
Very nice. Fantastic. I'm Lisa Daly, and I write contemporary romance and nonfiction writing advice. Oh, look, you can see, write a self-help book right over my shoulder there. And on my channel, we talk about how to write a book you're super proud of and get it published. So thanks so much for being here, everybody. We will see you next week, as always, at 11 a.m. Eastern, and go for a couple hours and get some good writing done. So thanks so much for being here, everybody, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Take care, everybody.